Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Chee-Tash. My name is Chris, and today we're going to be talking about the discussion questions from Chapter 1, Part 1, 1984 by George Orwell. We're going to hop right into it. If you guys don't know the discussion questions, I'll post them in the description of the video so you can catch them there, or I'll have them on like one of the final slides of that particular week's chapter and page range that we went over. This week, again, it was Chapter 1, Part 1. And let's just jump right into it with the first question that I posed. Winston has trouble remembering things. Is this out of personal forgetfulness or something bigger? Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that when he tries to remember his childhood, in particular, he's trying to remember if London was always this decrepit. And he tries to reach back into his childhood and see, and he can't find anything. Doesn't have anything in his head. Can't remember. And then there's also another moment where when he starts the journal entry, that first journal entry, he has trouble remembering the date. If you remember, he starts it off with the date, April 4th, 1984. And then he starts to question it like, is it really 1984? Well, I'm 39, so that would mean I was born on this day, or was I born on this day? And it's almost like he's not even sure how old he is. Is this just him? Is it just personal forgetfulness? Is it a childhood trauma, maybe? Maybe that's the reason why he can't remember his childhood. But what's going on here? Is it just Winston? And I'm thinking that this is not just Winston. But we don't know for sure yet. I'd be interested to see if other people have memories of childhood that are around Winston's age. That's the key thing, because we're going to get introduced to some kids in part 2. Is Winston and are other people that are around the same age as Winston experience this same thing? And I don't think they are, because we have this character that we got introduced to, Big Brother. And Big Brother is watching you. We've seen the posters. They've been on buildings. He's seen them outside. There's a picture of Big Brother in his place. There's a picture of Big Brother in his neighbor's place. Well, part 2, sorry to skip ahead with you guys. But Big Brother is everywhere. Big Brother is watching you. That's what the poster says. They have a telescreen. It's recording you. It's recording your movements. It's a camera, and it also records sounds and your voice. What would I need to do to further control you? All right, so I'm controlling what you say because you're not going to be able to talk shit about me because I can view you and I can see you, right? And now, what else could I do? And I think that, okay, what are people's best memories? They usually reach back to childhood. And, you'll hear people talking about, oh, simpler times. Oh, things were much simpler when I was a kid, when I was a child. And that's usually associated with fun, something good and positive. Now take that away. Now add to this that you don't really have a future, it sounds like, because you're constantly living in the moment, because you constantly have to deal with the scenario that you are living in currently, which is really shitty living conditions by the description that Winston had. I forget the page number, but somewhere early in Chapter 1, Part 1, it's grimy, right? It's decrepit, and sorry, my phone is ringing over there. Hopefully you guys can't hear it. It's decrepit, it's gray, it's dark. It feels like a bomb just hit London, Oceania, and come to find out, actually, that is true. Bombs do hit this living space, this area that they call London, Oceania. So you have to deal with that. So you can't really even plan for the future. And you have nothing to look back to. No simple, fun memories, right? You're just dealing with the present. Think about how much control you would have over somebody when they're just worried about what's happening right now. So that's why I think that this is Big Brother related. And Viktor Frankl talked about this in Man's Search for Meaning, where people in the concentration camps didn't have a sense of time. There's no calendar. Nobody's telling them the time. So they're just stuck in this concentration camp. They just have to focus and worry about what's right in front of them. And they have no sense of purpose. They have no sense of when they are getting out. They become downtrodden and hopeless, basically. And probably easier to control. So I think this is Big Brother related. We will see. In order to support my hypothesis, I would like to see if other people are experiencing the same thing. Let's continue forward. The next question, why do you suppose some things are prefixed with victory? We saw this with Victory Mansions. He lives in a Victory Mansion, Winston. There's Victory Gin. There's Victory Cigarettes. Victory, victory, victory. Why could this be? What does victory mean? So this is from dictionary.com. It means success or triumph over an enemy in battle or war. Now, it's kind of alluded to that Oceania, the country of Oceania, is currently at war with other parts of the world. They've mentioned troops in Eurasia. This was alluded to in the 2 Minutes of Hate, where they show Goldstein's face, people are going crazy, and then all of a sudden it morphs. What would that be called in film terms? It morphs, but it transitions. Yeah, I guess it transitions into a Eurasian soldier. I think by something with like the speech pattern turns into the footsteps of like soldiers, right? So they are, in one way, they're trying to equate like Goldstein with violence maybe and war, right? But they are currently at war. It seems like they are currently at war with possibly Eurasia. I know that is kind of mentioned in Chapter 1, Part 1. And I think that this prefix is just as like a rallying cry. Think about like freedom fries, French fries, right? But freedom fries, wasn't that a thing that the U.S. did during World War II, where they rebranded it as freedom fries because they were trying to spread freedom, something like that. I don't remember the exact context. And I'm sorry I didn't look this up, dive too deep into it. But I think the prefix is to get the people used to being victorious in war. You don't want to go to war, I guess, and lose. So they're trying to get the people to back the war by calling things victory. Rally the masses behind Oceania to support this fight against Eurasia or whatever other country that they are having a conflict with. This is kind of interesting. Cigarettes, gin, mansions. Maybe there's going to be other things that are prefixed with victory. I thought that was really interesting. Let's continue on. Or let me know what you guys think too. Why are things prefixed with victory? Next, the party wants you to use a speakwrite instead of writing down your thoughts. Why? Now, this isn't quite explicit. Winston says that if he ever needed to dictate notes, he had the speakwrite for that. So why buy the diary? And he says because the things that he's about to write, he can't say in the speakwrite. So I kind of went off on a limb here and said that, okay, the speakwrite is not for Winston's ears only. And I think Big Brother has access to that. And I think there's a reason for that. They want you to dictate in there. They want you to not write down anything, but, journal in a way your thoughts, speak them into the speakwrite, because they're going to see and they're going to have access to what you're thinking. They want that. They don't want you to think a certain way. Anything written down is harder to control, because think about this. The speakwrite they have access to. But something written down, it's going to be a lot harder to access that, because they got to get to the physical thing, right? Maybe the telescreen will see what you're writing down. Okay, I get it. But now it's going to be harder to get to the physical thing. You don't know the location of it. You don't know what they're writing down. You don't have access to it. And you can disseminate that, and Big Brother's not going to know. Who knows how many people you can disseminate this to before they stop it? Next thing you know, you have a bunch of people thinking a certain way, and now you have a revolution on your hands. So I think they basically just want to control what you say. They want to know what you're saying. They don't want you to speak out against the party line and spread that. That's really kind of the worst thing, is have that spread. Because they do talk about another book, the book that Goldstein authored, where he speaks about like his values that were dangerous to the party: freedom of speech, freedom of the press, etc. Nobody talks about it, and you can't really find it anywhere. And I think it was alluded that I think the party does want to find it, but they don't know where it is. There's rumors even that Goldstein has survived whatever happened to him, but nobody knows where he is. I think this is just an access issue and again, a control issue. They want to make sure you are towing the party line. So that's why they don't want you to write anything down, because how are they going to know what you're thinking? You could be thinking something secretly and yet put on a front when you're out at work at the Ministry of Truth. So I think, again, it goes back to control. Next, what are your thoughts on the apparent disregard for time? Like we said earlier, Winston doesn't really know the exact date. He starts to question it a little bit when he starts his diary entry. And again, I think this is very purposeful. It's very purposeful by Big Brother. They want you to just be so focused, hyper-focused on the present, that you have no time to think about the future, and you can't remember anything from the past, so that maybe the past can potentially help you and you could learn from the past. But if you don't have a past, what's there to learn from? And you get stuck in the same cycle on and on and on, because you're never learning from your mistakes, because you can't remember what you did as a kid or however long ago. And I don't even know how long Winston's memory goes back. But nobody really talks about date, right? Time is mentioned. Actually, this is moving. Is this moving ahead to part 2? Yes, I think this was in part 2. Winston will say that he needs to leave in 15 minutes. So again, he's hyper-focused on the right now. Hey, I got to get to work right now. Can't worry about anything else. Work right now. That's at least what he knows. But when he was born, what today's date is, I got no clue. I got no clue. Right? Think about how much justification you can get for a war if there's no exact date for it. Yeah, maybe it feels like it's lingered on forever, but you don't know for sure. Whereas, hey, this war started 5 years ago. Shit's not happening. People start to rise up, start to question, like, hey, why are we in this war? Why are we spending so much money on it? So think about that as well. I think it, again, not to beat this point home too far, but I think, again, it's a form of control. People don't care about the time because they're so worried about what's happening right now. So like the time right now, yes. Future time, nope. Past, no. Like I say there in the last bullet point, nothing to plan for besides your day-to-day work. No real use for that date. Let's continue. Describe Winston's emotions/thoughts while writing in his diary. This was a huge event. And it's mentioned that Winston planned this for several weeks. By the time he's getting ready to write down, it seems like he's super anxious. He's in a panic. His ulcer starts to bother him. He's just so built up with energy that he just wants to get this over with. And after he finishes writing, well, first off, he writes so much, he just splashes down. Just a bunch of words, sentences. He talks about the audience. There was a War Flicks the night before. The audience is viewing it. They're loving it, all this like violence and stuff. And it's happening to kids too. One lady speaks out. The police come and take her away. That's what he writes down in that first entry. And then he writes down a little bit more after that, down with Big Brother, if you guys remember that. And after that, it seems like he got some relief over it. Although he is in huge trouble for even buying the diary, he just needed to express himself in that moment. So before writing it, super anxious. After writing it, some relief, but it's almost like he doesn't care, right? Because he writes down his entry, and he says, well, I was going to get in trouble anyway because of buying the diary, because of even just thinking about what he was going to write down. So he's like, to hell with it. So I think there is some sense of relief. Like he just needed to do that. He needed to get that over with because it was just eating away at his mind that he can't talk to anybody else about it. Maybe O'Brien, but yeah, he just needed to get it out of his system, in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. Compare and contrast how people feel seeing Goldstein versus seeing Big Brother during the 2 minutes of hate. So they first see Goldstein in the 2 minutes of hate out of those two. Goldstein, people are in a frenzy, shouting at the screen. People are disturbed. That one lady's calling them swine. They're going crazy. Even Winston starts to go along with it too. Just this hatred and disgust for Goldstein. Big Brother comes on towards the end, and there's a calmness. There's a calmness to the crowd. They feel relieved. That one lady that was calling Goldstein a swine is now saying that Big Brother is her savior. And she gets down. I think she might have started to cry, saying a prayer. Yeah, people were praying. People are super thankful. They break out in like a rhythmic chant, like a self-hypnotic chant. Everybody. And I think that's to imprint on you, hey, Goldstein, the ideas that Goldstein had are bad. Big Brother, comfort. Big Brother is going to help you out. Big Brother's here for you. Good. So I think there's a reason to that, and why Goldstein is shown in that light, why Big Brother comes in at the end, speaks a little bit of words of encouragement, I think it's alluded to. So yeah, Goldstein, basically people are disgusted. Big Brother, people are relieved to see Big Brother. Oh, and that's the end of the presentation. Thank you guys so much for listening this far. I really, really appreciate it. Let me know if you guys have different takes on these questions. Again, we will have discussion questions after every episode of our reading. So for this week's reading, we're doing Chapter 1, Part 2. We'll have some different discussion questions for that. And let me know if you have any questions, clarifications. Let me know what you think if you have some different opinions on some of these questions, if you have some different answers to them. I mean, I don't want to call them answers because I'm not, I'm just giving you my take. I can't tell you 100% for sure this is how it goes. But then again, we're only 20 pages into the book now. So maybe some things will change and some things will be revealed. So again, thank you guys so much. I really, really appreciate it. Check out the blog. Again, we'll have another blog post out for this weekend talking about Part 2. And guys, thank you very much. My name is Chris. This has been Chee-Tash. Take care.